Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is for you. This is Paul Carruthers from MotoAmerica. I'm joined today, as always, by Sean Bice. This is our weekly podcast, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice, where we get to discuss all things motorcycling, obviously with a focus on MotoAmerica, since they're the ones that pay us the big bucks, right, Sean?
They are the ones, and we owe them a debt, I guess, for that, and letting us pursue our love for motorcycle, all things motorcycles, especially racing.
You might even be in debt for that.
That's right.
Well, I'm excited about today. We have one of our favorites on the show. It's been a while since we've had Bobby Fong join us on the podcast, but he's always good to chat with. And I know you like him, Sean, and I like him, and we get along well with him, and he always makes us laugh. So it should be a good podcast. Let me tell you a little bit about Bobby for those of you who don't know. He was fifth in the MotoAmerica Superbike Championship this past season. He earned three podiums along the way. But you know what? He ended the year disappointed, and he expected more from himself, and frankly, we did as well. After all, he'd won 3 races the year before on the same M4 X-Star Suzuki. But we'll get into that with him shortly. Also, we can't forget that he won a MotoAmerica Supersport Championship in 2019 and really is one of the fastest guys in our paddock. Yet here we are, we're starting the 2022 season, and Bobby Fong isn't racing Superbike. So we're going to talk to him about what he's got going on. He's actually taken a quote unquote real job, and it looks like he's also going to have a side gig that'll involve racing. So there's lots to talk about with Bobby. So let's bring him in now, Sean. And how's it going, Bobby?
Good, man. Thanks for having me, boys. Good little intro you did for me. Thank you.
He's a pro, Bobby. What do you
I like that. Yeah, I'm currently in Arlington, Texas for the Supercross weekend. I got a gig with Alpinestars maybe about a month ago now. Moved to Southern California from Northern California. Yeah, big changes, man. I maybe like a little over a month ago, I got the call from Chris and John Ulrich stating that their funding's been cut. I knew for a while that Suzuki was going to cut their funding a little bit, and last year didn't go too well. Just there's a lot of other things in motorcycle racing other than, a lot of people think it's just the rider why the results aren't there, but there's a lot of things that go into racing that make the results. So it was kind of a tough year overall, but Suzuki cut their budget, and I knew for a while, I was like, I might have to get a real job because I knew I probably wouldn't be getting paid this year. So thankfully enough, Gabrielle from Alpinestars hired me, and it's been really cool and very different at the same time. Once I heard that Chris and John Ulrich wasn't going to pay me, and even if I could win a race in Superbike this year, I wouldn't get zero bonus money. It was like nothing. Basically, I'd be riding for free and risking my life for free. And I feel like I'm a little too far along in my racing career to race for nothing. It's not a hobby anymore. It's a job. And so I took a real job. And it's definitely different, very mentally challenging. I like my job, but, helping other racers out is definitely very challenging mentally.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, you're obviously at a Supercross this weekend, and I kind of get the Supercross thing, and I can see you in that paddock, and I can see you helping those guys, and mentally that being okay. But I worry about when you're doing this same job at a road race, and here you are like 2 years removed or a year removed from winning Superbike races, and now you're helping guys that you used to race, most of which you used to beat. I mean, I was thinking about it last night. It's like, if suddenly I couldn't write stories and I had to take care, like make sure Sean's laptop was ready when he got to the track and the screen was cleaned, I would lose my mind. And the first time he said like, "Hey, Paul, you missed a spot," I'm tackling him and trying to beat the crap out of him in the middle of the paddock. And like this, I know you're not like this, but I would be like, I would figure out a way of like putting thumbtacks in the bottom of like Josh Herron's boots, just so the tips come out a little bit. So every time he moves on the foot pegs, he can feel like little pain in his foot. You want to do that, Bobby, or not?
Dude, I have so many things to say on that. First off, like on the road race side, like I am very frustrated. You know what I mean? Because and I'm not trying to sit here and whine in this podcast and say pity me, because I've had a good run. I've been thankful. Sometimes it's just not in the cards for some people, and I still think I'm the best rider out there, and I didn't get my, I can't say I didn't get my shot, because I did, but life is weird, and it's not all about speed anymore. Racing isn't about speed. It's frustrating, but it's about social media. It's about whose ass you kiss, whose ass you don't kiss. It could be so many different things. Rumors start super easily in the pits. It's like high school. There's so much other things than just being the fastest guy and working hard. And I was brought up that way, and I always thought racing, I had to work hard and do this and train harder than anybody, and you'll get this. And it doesn't work that way. So that's frustrating. But on the other side, on the Supercross side, helping people out, it's weird. Like, can you guys still hear me fine, by the way?
Yep.
On the Supercross side, it's weird because like nobody knows me, like I'm not saying like, hey, I used to race road racing, and hey, I used to win some races. So like I'm helping these factory teams out. I'm in charge of like the helmet, Alpinestars helmets for some of these factory riders, and I'll go in there and be the helmet support guy. So when I go in the rig and like I talk to the riders for like 2 seconds, like I'm not, hey, I'm Bobby Fong, like I'm just Alpinestars Bob. And then they look at me. It's weird. Like last few rounds, like they'll look at me like, who the hell is this guy? Like, don't even talk to me. Like, and I'm not saying like, hey, I'm Bobby Fong. Like, I get it. Like, I used to race. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm just like going in, minding my own business and doing my thing. So that's like, it's so demoralizing as like a rider, because like I know where they're at. Like I know like where they're at mentally if they're struggling. Like I know when to go talk to them and stuff. But like again, I'm just like Alpinestars Bob. I'm just like an average Joe, and it's like it's kind of hard for me to accept, because I feel like I used to be somebody in the racing world, and now I'm just like a guy walking around cleaning helmets. So it's different. I enjoy my job. It's just I'm not going around and saying, hey, I used to race for a factory team, or hey, I used to win some races. So that's
me sad, Bobby.
Dude, no, I mean it's realistic. I mean I think like every racer who stops racing or whatever kind of experiences a little bit of that. But it's not, and I'm not saying like what do you mean? Like at some point, every racer in that paddock, unless he has daddy's money, is gonna have to get a job sooner or later. And I'm thankful I'm still in the business. I'm still in the industry. I gotta still do some pretty cool things. So I got to travel the world still, which I love. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, I don't care what you're doing. Like I said, if you don't have daddy's money, you're not going to make it like millions of dollars in motorcycle racing in America. I mean, we're growing for sure, but you're going to have to get a job sooner or later. And I just I had a little kickstart on it. So, well, like I said, I'm thankful. I had a good run. But that being said, Gabrielle was nice enough to let me do 3 rounds on the bagger this season, which is pretty cool for Roland Sands, which I'm very excited about. And I have a new spec for those motorcycles and that program, the bagger racing. I used to think about it, I was like, man, that's just like kind of like a sideshow, until I did a test a little over a week ago with Factory Indian at Jennings, and the support that Indian has put into that program. I mean, hell, they're more factory than factory. I mean, all the engineers there, like they're serious, and it doesn't feel like, like a super heavy motorcycle. It's like, and you got to throw all your tricks at it, and it feels like and you slide it, you back in, like everything, you almost high side the thing. Like it's a real motorcycle. And so I have a completely different spec for that.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby, let me say this. People might say I'm in denial. You may even say this, but I absolutely don't believe it's over for you in any way, shape, or form. And I'll tell you why. I mean, I've even seen during this offseason and talking to some of the teams, and there were a fair number of unknowns with you. I mean, we'd heard some rumors, and I know I texted you a couple of times on some things, but some of the teams, they just don't know or aren't sure about what's going on. And I give Josh Herron as an example when he came back from Moto 2 that one year. And he showed up in the paddock at New Jersey at our last round of that season. And, he put himself in the window, and you're going to be doing that this entire year, not only with what you're doing in King of the Baggers, but being in the paddock. And Heck, we know that a lot of our teams in the paddock are made up of riders that Scott Jensen is somebody I think of immediately. I remember when he used to race, and he's a crew chief now. I'm not saying it's got to that point for you, but I think just being in the paddock and being involved is still going to be big. And you're going to be able to work on your racecraft in King of the Baggers, because I hear from Kyle Wyman, how much that's advancing. And, the bikes are as factory as they can be at this point. And like anything else in racing, it just keeps improving the breed to do it. So it's a task to be involved there. Andrew Lee's part in that as well. And he has the same kind of situation. He 2-time Stock 1000 champion, and, he's still staying in the game by doing that. So I just refuse to believe that it's over for you. And I think it's terrific and admirable that you have a job that's in our paddock, but I really feel like you maybe going to get some opportunities this year. Don't you think that? I mean, I just think to be around, people are going to go, "Hey, Bobby, we need a rider." So, let's see.
I'm like, I agree. I mean, who knows,
right.
Who knows what the future holds for me? Even though I'm not racing, I'm pretty content at Alpinestars, but of course, I would love to be on a factory team. But at the end of the day, I have to get paid, and it's weird. Like I said, racing is weird. It's not about speed anymore. I could give you a perfect example, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus or anything, but like I was at the factory Indian test over a week ago. I show up, did a red-eye flight, literally did a half a day, was the fastest at the test by a good chunk, and they pick another rider to ride for the factory team. And
wow.
It's like I said, it's not about speed. As much as that's terrible to say, it's frustrating because like people who know me, it's like, hey, I can struggle on a Friday or Saturday, but when it's race time, I'll be up there. It's not about speed anymore and how much you try. It's other things. So Indian's thankful, and thankfully Indian let me ride for Roland, and they're going to give me a factory motorcycle. But I'm just giving you an example. Like racing is a weird deal. It's not about speed, and it's kind of the full package deal. And I guess I didn't have the full package for a lot of reasons, but hey, I'm always trying. And even to this day, like even before I head to the office at Alpinestars, like I'm trying to get my workouts in at 4:30 at 5 a.m. so I'm not a complete pile of poop. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to just be some washed up turd racer that's I show up to the season working for an Alpinestar gaining 30 pounds, I don't want to be that guy. So I'm still working out and like just staying fit mentally and physically. So yeah, I mean, who knows what my future holds, but like I said, every racer out there is going to have to get a job sooner or later.
Well, Bobby, you're absolutely right. I mean, there are a ton of intangibles. It's unfortunate, and it causes our riders, including you, to doubt their talents and abilities. But, I fully believe, and I hope you do too, that there's nothing about you as a racer, as a person, that probably has caused this. It has to do with these other intangibles, like, what your name is, what you got in your pocket to contribute. I mean, we see this happen a fair amount, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, with Paul doing these Daytona retrospectives, I mean, I remember when you know this as well as any of us do. Joey Pasquarello won the Daytona 200, and then not too long after that, it's like, where is Joey now? I mean, Joey, if you're out there, what happened?
I heard rumors, but yeah, it's crazy. Like you win the race, and next thing you know, you just if you're not in the paddock, like once you're out, you're out, man. Like it's hard. It's cutthroat business.
Yeah,
it's cutthroat. Yeah, it's crazy, and there's so much talent that is came and gone over the years. It's crazy, and I feel like I'm last of the dying breed of who have never paid to race a motorcycle. Like if you think about it, everybody in the pits, at least 1 year, their daddy or sponsor has paid for them to get into whatever corporation they're working for or whatever. You think about it. Cameron Bobier, in the beginning of the years, paid for, at least to get on Yamaha, or his dad paid the way in the beginning of his career. Something, you think about all these riders, at least 1 year in the pro ranks, their dad or a sponsor has paid for something. I have never, ever paid for $1. My dad has never dropped a dime since I was 14 years old. And I'm that last of the dying breed.
You are.
And It's crazy to say. I mean, I'm not trying to brag about it, but that's how the business is. You know, it's definitely not a braggable matter. It's just like, it's a shame because there's so many talented riders out there, and if you don't have funding behind you or a sponsor behind you, you're not going to ride. So it's frustrating.
Do you think it could be, so you're going to be racing, some baggers rounds. We know for a fact that actually I will give this hint. Well, you've already announced it, but basically our Daytona entry list is going to be coming out probably today, if not maybe over the weekend or Monday, but it's all set to go, and you're on it for Daytona. So you will be at Daytona. You're going to be racing in 2 races there. Plus you're going to be racing in a Dash for Cash as well. So you're going to get a lot of racing going there. You're going to be in the window, as they say, but things happen during the season with riders getting hurt. And people are going to see you and go, oh, what's Bobby Fong doing? So I want to ask you, if it's a super sport ride, if it's super bike, if it's stock 1000, you've got Alpinestars now. I understand that, but is there a possibility that you could maybe do some other stuff this year too?
To be completely honest, Gabrielle from Alpinestars gave me an inch. I don't want to take a mile.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be like, hey, I know you agreed to this, but now this and this and this comes up. I don't want to do that, because at the end of the day, I like where I'm at right now. And who's to say, like, I'm not saying I'm done racing, but it has to be a good opportunity. And I would have to approach Gabrielle about it. And it can't just be like, hey, this guy's hurt for this one round. You're going to get no money, but it's on a factory Yamaha bike. Okay, what if I win the races? What's going to happen after that? Your rider's going to be healed, and that's it. I'm going to go back to my day job. Like, I don't want to sacrifice my day job for an opportunity to try to prove myself when I've already proved myself. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to say. Like, I'm not going to sacrifice a paycheck and benefits to go try to, what do I have to prove? I have nothing to prove unless there's a chance where I could get a 2-year contract with paid guaranteed money. And the chances of that happening are real slim to none. Like I said, I'm not saying that it's not a possibility. I'm ready for I'm still riding, like every chance I get, like I'm riding dirt bikes, like I'm training, like, so I'm ready. But again, like, I don't want to take advantage of my company, Alpinestars. It has to be a really good opportunity, and I would have to approach my boss, Gabrielle.
All right, let's talk a little bit about baggers. So it sounds like you went to Jennings. It was somewhat of a tryout. Like you said, you went faster, but didn't get that ride. Fortunately, Indian's giving you, or it kind of handed you over to Roland Sands to ride for his team. Now, what's the reason behind only doing 3 of the rounds? And if you would have gotten the Indian factory deal, would that have been for 6 rounds?
No. So it was always so Indian approached me a few months ago about being like a part-time second rider, because they don't have a full budget for the 6 rounds. So that I believe there's 3 double header rounds, and they only wanted somebody for the double header rounds. So so that's what they said. So, and then when Roland called me a little while, like maybe 2 weeks prior to the Jennings test, and I let him know, like, hey, I'm testing for SNS, and if it doesn't work out, like, we'd like for you to ride for me. And I was stoked. Once Roland called me, I'm like, that's awesome. Like, Roland, his brand, like, everything about it, like, I feel like I fit in there. And if he has a factory bike, like, that's definitely a way to go, So I was excited that Roland called me, just in case things went sideways or whatever happened, if Indian went a different route with the rider. So like I said, I did the test, and Jeremy McWilliams there and Tyler O'Hara, and they ended up going with Jeremy McWilliams, who's a great guy, super fast rider, a lot of knowledge on setting up a bike. So anyways, I picked Jeremy, and so I fell right into Roland's slot. I went to Roland's shop last week, checked it out for the first time. I knew Roland a little bit, not well, but I met him before and hung out a little bit. But his shop is awesome. Like, he has the bike at his shop, and everything's pretty sweet. So I'm stoked to be under his banner for the 3 double headers. So I think it's like Daytona, Road Atlanta, and then Laguna, maybe one more. I'm not really sure.
Okay, let's backtrack a little bit to last year. Obviously there was, we don't know because we're on the outside looking in, but obviously there was some differences in your program from the year before when you won 3 races to not winning any races. Now, also, we can't forget that nobody really won any races. Well, they did at the end of the year, but this was all about Jake Gagne, and Jake Gagne dominated. He won 17 of the 20 races, blah, blah, blah. So it was a different year, and it wasn't mixed up for at the top anyway. But what was different from the year before when you were able to when you had more success?
Yeah, and Bobby, hey, before you say anything, I want to jump in and say to this, Paul, we would sit in the media center and we were like, what is going on? What's going on with Bobby? I mean, we noticed the difference. So with that in mind, yeah, we want to know what happened. What was different?
Before I say anything, like, I just want to throw this out there. I'm not here to complain. I'm not saying it's me. I just feel like, some people need to know the truth on what was really going on. I mean, a lot of people who know, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes I just don't need to say anything. Last year I was kind of minding my own business and I played the corporate role. Nobody wants to hear a rider whining. Like, that's the last thing like people want to hear is a rider whining. But sometimes people need to know the truth too. So I'll state the truth. But again, like I said, I'm not whining, and I tried my hardest. But at the end of the day, 2020 got lucky. A lot of things, like the pace was fast in 2020, but it wasn't as fast as 2021. Yeah, Yamaha kept improving on the motorcycles as always. And like I said, going into 2021, I asked John and Chris, because I knew that we had a little problems. Like, we're dealing with some electronics problems in 2020. And they asked, I asked John and Chris Ulrich, like, hey, is it possible if I can get a different crew? Like, I want to change. Like, I just want to change for myself. Some people just need a change in life. I needed a change in crew. That never happened in 2021, which is fine. I understand the reasoning. It's like it's really weird. Like, it was just luck wasn't on our side. I mean, every single weekend, we did go faster than 2020 most rounds, but every single weekend I had a problem, electronics problem, bike failure, electronics problem, something. Like, it was something. I mean, 3/4 of the season, I barely rode on a Friday.
Right.
I mean, people who know, you know what I mean? They look at the laps. You see, I did 3 or 4 laps in practice, and then I go into a Saturday race. It's like, on qualifying, I'm still gathering my marbles, like, there was just a lot of weird things, and you can't point fingers. It's just like a lot of weird things, but that was going on. And like I said, the result really doesn't show, because once it always came race time, I was there. I was always there. And either I fell back because I had an electronics problem or a bike problem or something. But people who know, like, once it comes race time, I could be a second and a half off in practice. But once that green flag goes, I'll figure it out. And I did. Most of the time I did. I got top 5s. It wasn't winning, but I gave him my all, and that's all really I could ask for. So it was really a lot of bad luck, just a random bad luck, just a dark cloud. But yeah, it is what it is. It's a part of racing. And it sucks because I feel like I had so much more to give, you know what I mean? But it just wasn't in the cards. It just was never in the cards.
And you were on a 2-rider team, Bobby. So Cam Peterson was your teammate, and he did win a race. Of course, it was in the rain, but he did win a race. He had a pretty decent year. Did you look at that? And you can't help but, the first one you want to beat your teammate and all that. Did you look at that and go, what are they doing that we're not? Did you try to work with whatever they might be doing? Was it a whole different deal? Was he struggling too? Where was that at with the team?
I mean, he was. The crew is solid. Like, Cameron rode great. He figured it out. He was solid, but he was solid from round 1. He was top 5 from round 1, and he just stayed consistent throughout the year. Me, I would, be 5th, and then I would be up in the podium. It was really up and down season, but at the end of the season, we kind of came alive and started figuring things out. So, yes. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, like, do I look on the other side and say, hey, like, what are they doing that what we're not doing? It's hard to say, because if you look on their side, they're just consistent. They're just steady. They're right at the tail end of the front group, and they were top 5 all year long, which is steady. And that's what I wanted. And then me, I would be up front and then down. It was just very inconsistent. So it's really hard to say, like, hey, what are they doing different? Because once my motorcycle was working, I was up front with the guys. I was up front with him or with Stoltz or whoever. So it's hard to say. You can't say, like, hey, they had their stuff together. It's like, no, they just had better luck.
You know, it's been fairly well documented too that Matthew Stoltz, they kind of struggled towards the middle of the season. They lost their way a little bit and had to fix some things along the way, and then they kind of resurged, and it didn't affect their standing too much. But you know, I guess the season is always a journey like that. But from that point of view, do you think that it just was, you got to start off on the right foot, and if you get behind a little bit, it just can affect things? Or was it more than that, than just like a small thing? Was it just an issue of, you got in a hole and couldn't get out of it, I guess?
And again, it's some of this comes off as bad as I'm whining, and I'm really not. It's just, if you think about it in this way, Jake Gagne was a top 5 rider, the top 3 rider in 2021. He changed his crew for 2022 and dominated the full season. Just think about that.
Yep. Yeah.
All he did was change 2 guys.
Chemistry on a team is
he didn't
so
change
good.
as a rider. He didn't change a rider, or he wasn't changing a rider. He didn't have a new training program. He's the same rider he's always been, but all he changed was his crew, and he dominated the season. Think about that. It's not all about a rider in Superbike. It's about your team. It's about, like I said, I'm not throwing it in the bus, but it's a lot more that goes into racing other than twisting a grip.
Right.
Yeah, and it's funny because Paul has even mentioned this before, that the one who predicted that whole thing was Cameron Bobier. He saw that was going to happen, so he not only understood Jake's talent, but knew with the changes on that team that was going to elevate him. And that's why, I mean, I guess it's a shame. You think, hindsight is 2020, of course, but now you're kind of a little bit on the sidelines, and it's like, I just still think I'm not ready to give up myself.
Well, that's the thing. Like, like last year, like, I didn't forget how to ride a motorcycle. I didn't stop training. I didn't do anything different. I'm not a mental midget, like, I did't change anything. So it's a lot more that goes into being up front than just, like I said, just twisting the grip and going fast. Most people don't understand that. And so that's why I'm kind of stating this now. It's like, it's not all the rider, but at the end of the day, it falls on the rider's shoulders, which is unfortunate, but hey, that's motorcycle racing, and we live and fight another day.
All right. So look, you talked a little bit about bad luck, and I can see the bad luck side of it because, sitting next to Sean, we both see the same thing. And it's like somebody can crash, freaking low side their bike. The thing slides along nicely. Maybe a clip-on breaks off or something and everything's fine. You lose the front and crash. The thing goes into the gravel trap, freaking does 12, 15 flips in the air and destroys itself. And it looks like a bus wreck. And I mean, that's bad luck.
Dude, it is unreal. I mean, I had 2 crashes last year. 2 in the full season. 2. But man, do they stand out, because my bike, for some reason, I can't just, scuff a bar in. My bike has acid pedals, catching the flames, goes over a damn fence into the woods. I don't know. It finds a way to just destroy itself. It's not
Right.
cool. And it makes the fans love it. But John Ulrich's bank account didn't love it last year or the year before.
Right.
So.
Now, is it hard? It's got to be hard. Like you crash a bike, right? Nobody wants to crash a bike. You crash a bike, you see that it's destroyed. You go back to the pits. You probably get a little grief. You're feeling bad. Is it hard to like put that out of your mind, or do you feel like, God, I can't let that happen again? And you kind of there's got to be something that goes on inside your head there that makes you either slow down or not give a shit.
man, I wish I didn't. I mean, I wish I had that ability to not give a shit when I crash a bike. I really did. Like, it's weird. Like, you look in Europe, those guys crash 5 times a weekend and they get up and do it again and rot again. It's hard. One crash in America, because everything's so tight with budget. Everything's like, you go down one time, you're known as a crasher. Next thing you know, the team is giving you grief right before you put on your helmet, right before you go to the race, right before you go onto the track, stating that you cost them a certain amount of money or whatever. This happened almost my whole AMA career, at least some point. Like, people are struggling, the money isn't flowing for some of these people out there. And, they definitely let you know when you crash a bike, and it's hard for a racer to get that out of your head, because you're like, well, hell, if I crash one more time, they're going to fire me. Or, oh man, I'm not going to have this part. Then I'm not going to have this swing arm. And then I'm going to be even slower the next weekend because we don't have the money to buy another swing arm that's like this way. Or it's so much stuff that goes through your head as a rider. It's like, it's tough. So you got to kind of get that out of your head, but it is hard for, once a team owner states that to you, it is very hard to get that out of your mind.
Right.
Bobby, this is, for me, the biggest reason that I was never a racer, although I love racing so much. I've often said this, I never wanted to crash a bike because it was my bike and I love him too much. But aside from that, it's the mentality a little bit of a privateer, or a guy that's got his own bike and he's taking it out there to race. I mean, we have a lot of those guys in the paddock. Some of those guys, they are just not willing to, I guess, risk that situation. And of course, there's always a risk of injury, but also it's like they wad their bike. They have no bike anymore. I mean, we see that happen throughout the paddock so often, and they're trying to figure out parts here and there. And it's just, it's something, even when you're with a team, teams have budgets, they have, expenses and things they have to deal with. So it's hard to have that hanging over your head. And I've had a number of team principals or whatever say something to me about, well, just, you got to have spares with Bobby. And my answer is always, the guy rides to the limit. I mean, he gets maximum performance out of a motorcycle. There's no doubt about it. And I know you are aware of that as well. But it's hard in our series and with the budgets that some of these teams are dealing with, that's a factor. Because hell, look at Cameron Bobier in Moto 2. I mean, he's low siding that bike, or I'm not low siding, losing the front end on that bike so often. And I'm sure he doesn't have to really think about it. I mean, they build the bike and he goes back out there. So
no, he's trying. That's the thing. I mean, did the team just, why are teams riding? Like, I don't get it. Like, hey, like, yeah, nobody wants to crash. I'm the last person that wants to crash. Trust me. Do you think I want to crash? No. But do you want to win? Do you want to win or not? Like, what did you hire me for? Do you want me to try, or do you want to just go out there and just fucking go top 5? Like, it makes me so frustrated. It honestly makes me angry talking about it. It's because I've experienced it so many times. But like, yeah, you look at Bobier. What is he doing? He's trying his butt off.
Yep.
Like, he is trying every weekend. He's been struggling a little bit, but he'll get back out there. He crashed and get back out there. Crash, get back out there. I'm sure his team's not giving him grief about it. It's like these teams, yeah, I get it. It's tight. I understand. But do you want to win or not? It's a part of racing. If you can accept a crash, then don't be out there. Don't go racing. Don't hire me. It's so frustrating. I know I sound terrible when I say it, but I mean, it's realistic. I'm the last person that wants to crash, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it happen a few years ago. Paul can attest to this. Again, we'd be in the media center and, there goes Matthew Skoltz down again. And, this past year, he hardly crashed at all. And we were not only worried about him, but we were like, oh man, for that team, you feel for that team. And, he was not going to not go 10 tenths out there. And, they figured it out and they kept going. And, they used quite a bit of equipment in order to get him over that hump and get there. And, I mean, it could certainly happen again. Sometimes it is maybe karma or luck, like you said. I mean, what happened at Ridge with that bike catching on fire, that just happened to be where it was. And what happened in that crash, I mean, how often does that not happen? Guys will pick up a bike and move on, and it's okay. They'll even get back on the bike and be able to go again. I mean, we saw that with Loris Baz in the gravel at Atlanta there too. So, I mean, it's just sometimes things happen, and it's amazing how much of it it's a lot of talent. It's a lot of courage. It's a lot of bravery. It's a lot of teamwork, but it's also a fair amount of luck too. Would you say that that's all part of it?
Yeah, man. Luck is, man, it's all of it, dude. It is a lot of luck, and we're all out there trying. And like I said, Loris Baz is another example. A dude is trying to kind of keep it up front, and stuff happens. But he kept getting up and trying again. So it's a part of racing, and it is a lot of its luck. And like I said, so some team owners don't like crashing, then don't go racing.
So Bobby Fong, let's talk about something right now. I'm going to call you out on something, dude.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I found out something yesterday from you that, well, I think it fairly shocked me, but I knew who you were talking about. You said you were engaged. And
yeah,
we need to talk about this, Bobby Fong. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I am engaged to Sydney Roach. I had a lot of big changes going on in my life, and I kind of did it all at once. Moved to Southern California. I got engaged, took a new job. It was all big changes, but I'm happy I did it, and I'm definitely a changed man. I'm a growing boy. So
finally, right?
Yeah, I know. Who would have ever thought? But
well, and for some of the fans that might not know, Sydney Roach is Jack Roach's. She's older, right? She's an older sister, isn't she?
Yeah, his older sister. Yeah. Well, I would hope so. I mean,
he'd be in jail.
Oh crap! I suck at math. Oh my God, I'm terrible. Yeah. All right, so Jack Roach is the younger brother of Sydney and Hannah Roach as well, and two older sisters. So you've got the little brother jumping around, and I've met the dad, who is a former racer. I think he raced in British Superbike, so he's a racer guy too, and he's a little bit of an intense guy to look at. So you had to get around the little brother, and also the fairly stern father, who has a nice has a one of those 10-foot stairs. Let me put it that way. So good job, Bobby. I mean, you managed to solve all that, and you must be a decent guy if they're willing to bless that whole thing. Good deal.
Yeah. I mean, their taste in food sucks. Their whole British family, their taste in food sucks. I had to get over that part. But no, man, it's been pretty cool. It's the family's really, really cool. They've been there for me, and we got along. We took a trip to England a few months ago, the whole family and myself, and had a blast. And yeah, like I said, I have plenty of time to screw it up until the wedding, but meanwhile, I'm having a good time. She's been a good part of my life.
She's great.
Sean,
yeah.
So Sean, Bobby's actually a neighbor of mine now. He's probably maybe 10 minutes away, 15 at the max.
That's awesome.
If I could get in really good shape if I was willing to get up at 4.
Dude, it is unreal waking up that early to go work out. I mean, I need to go. I know you're right data point. We need to go work out, but man, it is mentally challenging waking your eyeballs up and sitting your butt on a bicycle seat or going on a run or whatever. It's brutal.
It's pitch black.
Dude, brutal. Yeah. Thank God it's not too cold. It hasn't been too cold in the mornings, but I would never do that in Northern California.
Yeah, it seems cold to me, but you're right. I mean, if you're from somewhere where it's really cold, then it's not so bad. But man, it's early mornings.
Boys, I hate to do this to you, but work calls. I could see an Alpinestars jacket doing work from a distance right now, and I feel like a complete dirtbag, and I do not want to do that. So
no, that's totally fine. We appreciate having you on, Bobby, and we don't want you to lose your day job in such early days of your day job. So go do your deal, and we'll catch up with you again. But thanks for all the information. Thanks for chatting with us. Congrats on the new job. Congrats on the new ride. Congrats on the engagement, the whole deal. And we think everything's going to work out well for you because you generally land on your feet. So good boy.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for having me, boys. And if Gabriel, if you're listening to this, I'm getting to work. I promise.
I'll make sure he's there, Gabriel. All right. Bye, guys.
See you Daytona, Bobby.
See you. Bye. See you, guys. Bye.